Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you here for our NetElixir University webinar. We're really looking forward to the next 30 minutes to share some original research with you. As part of our NetElixir University, we've tried to quantify the impact of the removal of the right-hand side ads on the SERP page. We'll be diving into our team's research here, but wanted to start off with a quick background on NetElixir. Our mission here at NetElixir is to help digital marketers succeed online. We've been doing this for about 12 years now. Our business was incorporated in 2005, and we have our headquarters here in Princeton, New Jersey, as well as offices in London and Hyderabad, India. Our team is comprised of over 100 fanatically analytical search marketers, and we have over 5.5 million hours of hands-on experience in search marketing. NetElixir's solutions can fall into three different buckets. Our first bucket is our services. So we help businesses with their paid search and Google Shopping campaigns, their SEO or search engine optimization, as well as social media optimization to make sure that they're driving ROIs and acquiring new online buyers from these campaigns. Also, we have our technology group. So this is comprised of our LXR or LXR Marketplace and LXR SEO. These are NetElixir's proprietary tools and software that we have online. These tools are both free and very low cost. And this is all part of our mission to really help all businesses succeed online. There's various tools here from SEO site graders to Google AdWords plugins that anyone and everyone can go online and take a look at. We also hold webinars such as this one, and also regular SEO weeks and analytics weeks to share information with our partners, clients, and customers. Our third arm of solutions is our consulting. So we have a team of analytics experts in the office. We also have a digital marketing strategy team that works alongside our customers and as an extension of their team to craft strategies for different stages and different business goals. And we also have an offering where we can create customized executive dashboards. All three of these solutions are really grounded in helping our businesses humanize every click. We want to help our customers understand not just the numbers and the data and all of the analytics, but really turn that into a human and their target customer. Through doing this, they'll be able to acquire new online buyers and also serve those customers and consumers what they're looking for. Udain Bose is our founder and CEO, and I'd just like to quickly introduce him before he jumps into our original research on quantifying the impact of the removal of right-hand ads on the SERP page. Udain founded PartyBingo.com. He's also a guest lecturer at Cornell, City University of New York, and the Indian School of Business, and he is probably the most fanatically analytical one of the team, and I know he's very excited to jump into this original research that we've done.
Thank you, Caitlin. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. This was a unique research which was essentially prompted by quite a significant action on the part of Google to kill the right side ads on the SERP. It was first reported on the 18th of Feb, and 19th of Feb onwards, we started seeing suddenly the right-hand sides, somehow the ads seem to have disappeared. So essentially, as a part of this, you would see 4 ads or text ads on the top, and right-hand side in many cases is completely empty or blank, or there are certain product listing ads or PLA ads on the right side. 3 of the text ads are basically showing now at the bottom of the page. So being again very fanatically analytical, we decided to start a research. The research was done with a very clear purpose, The purpose was this was quite a major change on Google's side, and we really wanted to quantify the impact of that in terms of just the pure business or PPC performance. So this is again just to clarify as to what exactly I'm talking about. This was the old SERP layout on Google. As you can see, you have the paid ads on top, and then you had the product listing ads on the right side top, and then you had the paid ads right column again in the bottom. And you had organic listings. You probably would be able to see about 2 to 3 organic listings above the fold from a desktop. The new SERP layout, things changed quite dramatically. So you have now about 4 paid ads on the top. As a result, the organic listings sort of get pushed further down. So you'll be lucky to see probably 2 listings at this time. More or less it is between 1 and 2. And on the right side, either there are absolutely no text ads, and there are some product listing ads. The number of product listing ads seems to have gone up. So again, I sort of go back to these changes. If you really look at these changes, as we all know that paid search is very clearly driven by a demand and supply mechanism, or demand and supply economics is what sort of drives paid search. So our initial thought was, I mean, since the space has really sort of gone down for text ads, and there is less number of text ads, it's pretty sort of commonsensical to believe that their cost per clicks would have really soared, gone up significantly, because now everyone seems to be competing for those 4 positions of text ads which get visible. The same for product listing ads. Say product listing ads, you have sort of more of product listing ads now. So if you have the same number of buyers or advertisers, to an extent that economics basically spells out that the cost per click of product listing ads actually should have gone down a little bit, because now there are the same number of people for a larger number of positions in terms of product listing ads. So we decided to conduct a study. The study was done only on the desktop users between Jan 1st and April 15, 2016. Now desktop users, it was about 12 million impressions. It was a small study, but as we are seeing for most of our customers, 50% plus of the traffic is coming from mobile devices. I must say that as a caveat, it probably makes the study a little skewed, and only about 50% is covered. So what about out of 25 million, 12 million impressions came from desktop, and that's what we analyzed. We tried to tackle about 4 industry verticals, and I'll be sort of shortly sharing with you the industry verticals. 3 happen to be from core retail, and 1 industry vertical essentially was B2B. And we conducted a pretty deep statistical analysis where we tried to basically find questions or unearth those findings pertaining to about 6 performance metrics based on all live Google AdWords data. So that was just the overall study in terms of the scope. Like with any study that we do at NetElixir Retail Intelligence Group, this also started with about 6 hypotheses, as I mentioned. We had some hypotheses on CPC inflation. The first hypothesis was the cost per click for text ads has increased. CPC for text ads was increased again, as I mentioned, seemed very commonsensical because you have the same number of advertisers, hopefully, bidding for a lesser number of text ad positions, right? So theoretically, the same demand for lesser space means that the CPC should go up. The second hypothesis was the cost per click for product listing ads have increased. So the hypothesis was based on till the time all the 16 product listing ads start getting displayed, and till the time that the entire right side probably at some point in time gets filled with all the Google Shopping or product listing ads. Hopefully it is again the same sort of a scenario, and the CPC should have gone up. That was the second hypothesis. We had a hypothesis on auction participation. Now auction participation, just to simplify it for the audience, is basically the number of advertisers who decide to bid for a particular keyword to be visible on the text ads on a particular page. That's in simplistic terms. So if there are about 50 people who are bidding to be there in the, initially it was about 10 positions, now it is 4 plus 3, 7 positions on the page. Essentially the number of auction participants is 50, but only about 7 ads really show up. So our hypothesis was the auction participation has come down. So just because of this change, we felt that maybe there are lesser number of participants or advertisers who are really competing for the lesser space. That was, I think, a hypothesis as well. The fourth hypothesis was based on the CTR or the click-through rates, primarily of the text ad, the fourth position text ad. So we really wanted to check what is the impact when the fourth position text ad, which has historically been on the right side top, moves to the top of the page on the fourth position. So our hypothesis was the click-through rate for the fourth position ad has increased. Purely that was based on an earlier heat map study that we had done, which showed that purely, again, heat map results, that there are a lot more people who are likely to click on a fourth place ad if it sort of comes pretty much on the top of the page. The last couple of hypotheses essentially was on the share of traffic. So we also tried to quantify what was the impact on the percentage share of traffic from PPC. I would say PPC in this case denotes essentially product listing ads as well as the text ads. What was the impact on the percentage share of traffic that was coming from the PPC text ads as well as the PLA ads? And we felt that the share of traffic has remained unchanged. That was the hypothesis. And the last one was the percentage share of traffic from the organic listings has marginally decreased. We felt that because the organic listings were getting sort of pushed down further, the percentage traffic of share from the organic listings would have, or ideally, I mean, logically should be sort of coming down. So these were the 6 hypotheses which we sort of started with. We knew when we started that this would probably be the first study in this space done anywhere with that sort of these 6 hypotheses. And again, these are like very, very initial times. So this study has a caveat or a disclaimer that it sort of just covers the first about 2 months since this particular change was launched. And I'm very sure there would be sort of other studies coming out shortly from us as well as other companies as well who are fanatically analytical into research. But some of the findings that I'll sort of share with you now were quite interesting. So let me get into the research findings, but before that, we have a short poll that we would start with. So essentially the poll here is, what is in your opinion was the CPC inflation for text ads? I mean, in your opinion, did the text ad CPCs go up by 50%? Did the CPCs go up between 35 and 50%? Did they go up between 10 and 35%? Did the CPC inflation was less than 10%, or was it down by 5%? We'll give it maybe about 10 seconds for all of you to really poll. I see a lot of the voting meter sort of going up, and the trends seem to be pretty clear in certain cases. Well, I guess we will probably give it another about 5 seconds and then close this poll. Yep. So essentially the results are 4% of all the attendees felt that the CPC inflation was more than 50%. Seems to be logical, primarily because, I mean, there seemed to be lesser space and more people competing for the same space, or lesser space is always means a higher CPC. 22% of you felt it was about 35 to 50%. 31% estimated it to go up by 10 to 35%. 38% predicted less than 10%. So that seems to be the number 1 slot. And then 4% interestingly said that the CPC actually went down by 5%. So that's interesting. So let me go back to sharing as to what exactly the results were. So this is our insights on CPC inflation. And honestly speaking, a lot of us at Netelix were very surprised. The CPC for text ads were marginally down, while the PLA ads, the CPCs were up by 20%. So let me repeat this because that's something which is completely counter to what we had expected or thought it to be. The CPC for text ads are marginally down, while for the PLA ads, the CPCs were up by 20%. This was quite a wow finding, and the question that we asked was, is there some sort of an offsetting really happening? Offsetting in the sense you basically very clearly see that the CPC gap, the cost per click gap between the product listing ads and the text ads seems to be diminishing. As you can see on the 1st of Jan this year, the difference was about 50 cents, and this is again, we are taking all these 4 different industry verticals. And now it seems to have come down to 10 cents, right? That's a substantial sort of decrease in the overall gap between the cost per clicks. It's our belief that the product listing ad CPCs will cross text ad CPCs for most categories by Q3 2016. So that's, I think, one of the sort of findings that we basically had, which was quite interesting. And in certain cases, the text ads were a little unique and different from what we had expected initially to be. The second one, which was again to an extent connected with this, was even more surprising. So this is basically on auction participation. So how many people are really competing to advertise for text ads for a particular keyword? And again, as I mentioned, this is like category wise data. So for home decor, as you would see, that this was launched on the, let us say, around 18th or 19th of Feb. And as you can see that immediately the number of advertisers who were even competing for a text ad position came down from 93%. We have taken the 100% scale as of Jan 1st to Jan 31st. Feb 1st to Feb 15th was 93%, but that came down dramatically to 66% immediately after this change. That came down further to 57%. So that means that almost half of all the people who were really participating in the auction back in Jan really were still in the fray, which became a huge surprise for us. The number seems to have stabilized to an extent now, since it has been almost about 2 months now, at about 62%. So we are talking about 3/5 of the number of auction participants who were there in Jan seem to be there in home decor. Interestingly, in the industrial engineering, which is more of a B2B category, that number was pretty much unchanged. So there was no impact on the numbers for B2B. For apparel and accessories, that went down immediately to 55%, went down further to 48%, and went back up at 63% and seems to have stabilized around 60%-ish mark. So very similar to home decor again. For food and gourmet, the number sort of went down, but again sort of went back up at 91%, and again is currently at about 66%. So that's very interesting. I mean, so effectively based on this, a very broad level, essential sort of correlation that we are sort of trying to extrapolate from this thing is number of people who seem to be advertising or bidding for a particular position, people seem to be dropping off. People very clearly seem to be dropping off. I see a lot of questions that are sort of coming in. What we'll do as a practice, what we have been doing as a practice, I'll just tackle all these questions at the end. So feel free to use your question box if you have any questions on any particular slide. My only request is you'll probably want to have to reference the slide title in your question as such. But again, this came as a big surprise and probably an equal surprise compared to just the CPC decrease. But if you really put 2 and 2 together, it probably makes sense because less number of advertisers are now even bidding for text ads, and as a result of which the CPCs essentially have gone down, and product listing ads have gone up just because there seem to be more participation there. Let me move on to the next one, but before I do that, we have another poll which is sort of coming up. Let me sort of run this poll as well, and this is pretty much the last and the final poll that we have. And the question that I have for you is, what was the increase in the click-through rate for the 4th position text ad? So as I mentioned, the 4th position text ad basically moved from the right-hand column top to the top of the page on the 4th position. So in your opinion, was it greater than 50%, 35 to 50, 10 to 35, less than 10, or down by 5%? And CTR again is click-through rates. I see some active polling going on. We'll give it another about 10-15 seconds before we stop. We'll stop literally in about 5 seconds. We see that about 85% have voted. So great, excellent, thank you. So again, the results, and 11% said that the increase in click-through rate was more than 50%. So essentially, if someone was getting a click-through rate of 1% earlier, that is currently 1.5%, they said. 35% of all the attendees felt that the increase was between 35 and 50%. So again, if it was 1% CTR, in a very, very simple broad sense, it is now 1.35 to 1.5. 30% felt it was 10 to 35%. That is probably a very safe, conservative bet, I would think. 17% felt it was less than 10%, and 7%, interestingly, said it was down by 5%. So let us just see as to what the actual results were. Now, this is the insight on CTR. As you can see, the click-through rate went up by an incredible 67%. So are we almost like one of my good friends, Sean, he basically almost like said that this seems to be have taken some share of the organic listing, which used to appear below the top 3 listings on the search page. Very, very interesting thought, right? Because the fourth position, the click-through rates went up by 67%, which was huge. We'll go on quickly to the last piece of our insights thing, and this is the share of traffic. Now, this is again one of those wow observations, and understandably the SEO folks will not be very happy with this thing. But based on our analysis, the share of traffic that a website is getting from the PPC ads, when I say PPC ads, I'm including text ads as well as the product listing ads, are up from 28% to 35%. That is an incredibly high jump given the fact that it is just 2 months since this particular thing was launched. So again, very clearly, Google's attempts at pushing down the free listings in an attempt to monetize more of the SERP seems to be very clearly in play out here. And unfortunately for the organic listings, the overall share has come down from 72% in our data set to about 65% currently. So finally, just sort of concluding in terms of the summary of findings is in terms of the CPC for text ad, it was lower than expected increase. As you can see, it actually sort of was completely a shock. It was a decline which sort of happened. The number of advertisers participating in an auction has come down, which again was very surprising because we had thought that people wouldn't really drop off so quickly. The share of traffic for PPC has increased. This is probably to an extent commonsensical or logical because you have higher shelf coverage for all the paid ads compared to the organic ads. There has been a 20% inflation in the CPC for product listing ads. Again, more ads are visible. And honestly speaking, one of our predictions is definitely you can expect a lot more product listing ads to show up on the right side of the page in the next few months. And I'll explain as to why we feel that's going to happen. Better visibility and higher click-through rates for the 4th position ads. Now, since the number has been consistently around 65-67% higher in terms of CTR, we initially thought maybe some people are mistaking that for the first organic position and maybe clicking it. But that percentage of 67% increase in CTR has held on. And so maybe because of this rather unique and very dramatic change on the SERP, maybe Google has been able to influence as to how the searchers are really sort of clicking on ads and moving forward. Lastly, the share of traffic from organic listings has come down. Again, this is probably more of a corollary to the share of traffic for PPC has increased. So those were the findings. I'll just end quickly with a couple of things, what we call our point of view. This is what NetElixir team feels. Well, the new layout with lesser real estate for text ads seems to have had a marginal impact in terms of traffic decline. So text ads are still getting the same amount of traffic almost. The PLA ads definitely has a higher overall sort of traffic growth, which we are seeing. The interesting part for us was the number of or the decline in the number of advertisers who are participating in the auction process. So our question was, does it mean that many of the mid-market and smaller businesses are no longer even actively participating in the PPC text ad part? Which seems to be counter to what Google's text ad philosophy has been since it started. So we are a little amused with that sort of an observation. And again, this is a call out to some Google folks, if you are there on the on this webinar, that this is something which Google, I believe, need to take a little more seriously. They cannot afford to really offend or skew it or bias it so heavily towards the large advertisers that the small guys don't really even compete. What we recommend, I think very clearly, is the focus is going to be the value of SERP, right? So value of SERP, when we essentially mentioned that rather than focusing on individual listings, only text ad ROI or only PLA ROI, only organic ROI, we have been championing this for the last 3 years now. In fact, we did a webinar last Jan, and you can download our webinar recording on the value of SERP from our website. It is netelixir.com/universities workshop-webinars. So I think one of the things which I would recommend, advise all the attendees to do who are actively participating in the paid search process is look at the how much money are you making from that search engine results page rather than individual listings, because that's so what we are calling is for a much more holistic approach towards search marketing rather than being overtly only SEO driven or PPC driven and so on. The last piece is the product listing ads continue to become increasingly important. The advertiser needs to be obviously much more careful with the spend on product listing ads. They have much lesser control on when and where the listing shows up. So that's a challenge, and probably Google wants to build in that level of, I would say, lack of visibility in terms of why should and when should an ad particularly pop up, and reduce the amount of control that the advertiser has. We had built this pyramid model about, again, 3 years back, which has been very helpful for our agency to really optimize many large mid-tier and smaller accounts PLA campaigns. We call this the pyramid model, which is almost like a very hyper-targeted model. So start with your top performing SKUs, then go on to the best-selling products, and then go on to the generic products. And really the bids for the top sellers understandably need to be the highest and so on. But structure your entire account such that, like that. And again, I mean, if you are interested in finding out as to how exactly can pyramid model help your business, I recommend you to download our last year March's webinar, which is called Maximize Your PLA Profits. Again, the link is the same, netelixir.com/universities/workshops-webinars. So with that, I'll just sort of hand over the controls to Caitlin. She'll sort of share with you something interesting, and then we'll get into the questions then. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And looks like we're closing here right at 2:30 on the dot. As we had mentioned, you can download the full white paper from our website, which is www.netelixir.com/RHS-case study. And here you'll see all of the research behind it, as well as the findings that Udain shared. Now for anyone who wants to stay on or ask a question, we'll have Udain go through some of the questions here that were sent and referred to the slides. You'll also be able to find the full recording of this webinar on our website as well. So thank you again. We really appreciate everyone spending this 30 minutes with you, and we're excited to share our original findings.
Fantastic. Thank you, Caitlin. So some of the questions I just tried to tackle. I know we are already sort of past our 2:30 time. So this question is, does the decreasing number of advertisers participating in the auction means fewer advertisers even bothering, or that their CPCs aren't as competitive and therefore they aren't being considered? So that's a great question, Mary. And yes, that is exactly what it is. The number of advertisers that are participating in the auction has decreased. And a big reason is because many of them aren't really even able to compete in terms of the CPCs or the cost per clicks. There is a question from Michelle. I wonder how these trends compare to the previous year. So previous year is so for this data set, we essentially consider from the 1st of Jan. So we have about a month and a half prior to the change being sort of brought about. So again, that has been taken as the reference, or 100%, Michelle. So there seems to be roughly about 60% of the number of advertisers who were really competing at that time who are competing now. The next question is, this is again from Mary as well. Q1 to Q2, a decrease in CPC, is it not normal in the product listing ads anyways? That's a good question. Well, the categories that we had observed, we have tracked the year-on-year CPCs for the corresponding months. And from that perspective, we feel fairly confident about our research findings. It seems to have been caused by the change in SERP layout rather than essentially any seasonal trends which may play out here. So that's, I think those are the questions. Any other questions, feel free to reach out directly, and that's what we have time for today. Thank you very much. And again, any questions, please feel to sort of reach out to us, Udayan at Netelixir or caitlin.kanaus@netelixir.com. Thank you very much.